The start for this day was a little bit weird. We were expecting the wind to turn east already, maybe an hour ago or so, and eventually it did, enough that we could launch. So I launched right after Chris and Cedar, and Cedar's here on the Red Wing. So I'm just trying to hang out and find some climbs. Cedar caught a climb, and I followed him, and I was just trying to take the same thermal. Looking back, I can see that he was able to get the better part of it, and maybe I wasn't finding the best score, so maybe something to look at in the future. But anyway, it got me established pretty high, and I just went on a glide with that tailwind towards Mount Morrison. I was thinking Mount Morrison might be the next thermal trigger, but I caught something already before that I started taking. It had some drift because the wind was actually pretty strong, so at times I was clocking maybe 10 to 13 miles an hour of north wind, pretty much straight north. But regardless, finally I was able to find a climb that took me to all the way to 14K. Here I'm going on a glide. This is such a nice high top of lift day, absolutely incredible. You just get really high and then you can go really far with that signal climb. So here we are gliding together with Cedar. I was playing around, going more towards the hogbacks, seeing if I could find something over there. I could see the hills and the foothills being shaded, so thinking maybe I could find something more out front on the sunny areas, but that wasn't really working. It wasn't really the case. It was weird. It was interesting that even though everything was sunny, I couldn't really find much consistent climbs there. So we did some S turns. I feel like both of us were sort of searching for uh, some lift, and eventually we found something, and I found something uh, over the sunny area, closer to the foothills, but not that close. You can see that the clouds are shading out all the foothills already, and now we are getting into some rain. And so I just tried to push out, try to escape the rain. It wasn't too strong, but I really wasn't feeling like thermaling in the rain. It wasn't really that fun. So at this point, Cedar and Chris were established somewhat higher, and so they took a deeper line over the hills, and I tried to stay out front so I could always glide back to the front side, and so I was getting pretty low here. Uh, I was thinking I'll might have to just land on the south end of Roxborough Park, and I was approaching that, but trying to still work the foothills as much as I could. And finally, I caught a climb, uh, kind of a low save, but it was a decent climb that took me again quite high. For some reason, my Insta 360 wasn't charging, so I don't have footage of the rest of the flight. But really, what ended up happening, I was just continuing to take the climb as far as I could. Maybe it took me to 12 or 12 and a half, and at that point, the clouds that you see here in the picture, they started to become closer. There was more outflow, and they were definitely releasing pretty close to me. So I was thinking to just escape to the east, and so that's what I did. So I flew to the east over the flats, and I didn't take much of the thermals, just using the altitude I already had, and shortly after I ended up bombing out at some farm fields. Essentially, there were some climbs that I could have taken and could have worked, but they were really light and super drifty. So I ended up deciding to call it quits and land over there. Stay was a cool learning how much you can accomplish with a short amount of time, and especially when you have high top of lift coupled with strong wind, you can go downwind and cover a lot of distance in a very short time. So this was a really fun day from that perspective. Maybe another perspective is that the clouds were kind of like playing around really close to the clouds all the time, and we were seeing some virga and some rain quite close to us. Everything didn't seem like super scary and big, so maybe that was the biggest reason we continued doing that, or I personally wasn't feeling a lot of risk with this. Um, but certainly that's something to keep in mind and think about, and keep an eye for these clouds growing bigger. And because when they are releasing, obviously they're creating some gust fronts, and it can be quite nasty to land into one. So gotta be careful with that going forward.